Today's question is, how often do I spread out my hypnosis sessions? Does it matter? And this question can be easily answered by it is very much client specific based on the niche that you are working with. That is really the main thing here. I am not the trainer who will be like, you need weekly sessions. As a matter of fact, I completely stand against that. I don't know why that is taught because we in our hypnotic questioning sessions we understand the powerful process that the unconscious mind does after the session, which should not be interrupted. How I like to describe this to my students is that, when you buy something online and the processing like circle comes out and it says, wait, make sure you don't leave the page or else you'll fuck things up. This is exactly what unconscious processing is all about. Now, I'm not sure what you're trained in, but if you train in something like the hypnotic questioning method, where we only use principles, we take advantage of the unconscious mind's natural ability to heal itself. And while it's healing, we don't want to interrupt the process by having another session in. A lot of the times, some hypnotherapists will do it weekly. Now, that's not to say that it is wrong, but it's very important to really assess where the client is at. And so that is really the main answer for it. There is no set in stone rule. But what I tell my students is allow for at least 2 to 3 weeks for the client to process. Yes, 2 to 3 weeks. I would even say more on the 3 week mark. And this is based on my experience working with clients as well as personal experience and my students' experiences. And there are different signs that you that tell whether or not your client needs a session right away. There are normal processing symptoms that I talk about with my students very extensively in our sessions. And if they're still having those symptoms of processing, then we reassure our clients and give them reassurance and maybe just talk through the symptoms to really help them resolve it. And then once they are ready, there's signs where they're pretty much back to their normal self. Usually in the processing period, there's a lot of things internally going on. And so when they feel like their normal self, which again will take 2 to 3 weeks, and I just had my training 2 to 3 weeks ago, and right now I'm just coming off of that processing as well. So this is usually the timeline that I personally recommend my students who use this method for. But for you, if you're not trained in this and you have your own hypnosis method, what is that like for you? Do you feel that after a week, the work that you've done a week before is dying down, or what is that like? You want to be able to see what your process is like, what your current client results are at, and then base it from there. Do your clients really need the weekly sessions, or can you extend it to every other week? That is something that you want to personally look at based on your client results. So long story short, again, make sure that everything you do is very client specific and you're just not saying, I'm going to get you in weekly because that is what traditional therapy does, or this is what I was taught in my school. You really want to make sure that you are personifying it for your clients. Like, for example, for me, I fucked things up and I did the weekly sessions and that was just way too much for my clients. The method I use is so damn powerful that every week it became too overwhelming in a good way, too much of a good thing, right? And so that was how I really learned the process of unconscious processing. Then when I started just delaying it for weeks and weeks, that's when results were even better. And so that is definitely something. There's no black and white answer for this, and there shouldn't be. And if a trainer is telling you that there's a black and white answer for this, no, 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 no. You really want to assess where your client is at and know what assessment process you need for yourself to assess whether your client needs the next session or not. So for us, as I mentioned before, it is really just about, is the client done with the normal aspects of processing? Are they back to their normal self? and they still have the problem lingering, and then that will be the time where you book your next session in. It's not from the, after the first session, let's book you in, because you don't really know that for sure, right? Like, what if your client is good to go after your one amazing session? Or what if you do need a couple of sessions after that because some things are just getting untaught and that's what the client needs? You don't want to assume anything until it happens, until after that processing period. And then that is when you'll determine when your next session is. So client dependent, as it should. And this is a trial process. You're not going to figure this out right away. This is a testing process and will always evolve with time. So just remember that you don't need to know everything right now. You just need to make the decision based on what you've experienced within your clients and then go from there.